Well, the legalization of marijuana is still front and center here for Rhode Island. We're going to talk about it pro and con tonight.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
You know, Massachusetts has already made this move, and of course there's some procedural stuff that has to get going here for 2018 for Massachusetts. But the big question is, will Rhode Island jump into this, or will it trail Massachusetts in terms of what its progress is? This is a sticky wicket, and we're either going to jump ahead of Mass or be behind it or kill it altogether. I'm not exactly sure how this whole thing is going to come down, but it is a pleasure to have you aboard on this Friday evening. As you know, on Friday nights, if you're a regular viewer of the show, if you're not, welcome. On Friday nights, we don't hit the issues of the day because we record our programs on Friday, on Thursday. So if all heck is breaking loose on Friday, we'll catch up to it on Monday, or of course on the radio on WPRO from 3 till 6. In the meantime, let's dig into this conversation. Here are a couple of headlines that argue against the legalization of marijuana, one being the Attorney General's position. This is also the headline for a new ad campaign which opposes marijuana. So the folks who support it might be a little bit behind on some of the propaganda here, but here's the latest on what the Attorney General says.
Past the initial legalization.
Flanked by law enforcement leaders, medical professionals, and anti-marijuana groups, Attorney General Peter Kilmartin called for Rhode Island to keep non-medical marijuana illegal.
It has long-lasting effects. It has unintended consequences.
Kilmartin arguing the black market won't go away if marijuana is regulated and available in stores.
All you need to do is look at cigarette sales in the state of Rhode Island and the enforcement of untaxed cigarettes. That is a black market that exists with a legal tobacco product.
Bills have been introduced in both the Rhode Island House and Senate to set up a regulated marijuana framework, allowing adults over 21 to grow and purchase the drug from licensed retailers. Supporters say it's a safe way for adults to do what many of them are already doing.
Illegal marijuana causes all sorts of public health problems. There's no testing, there's no labeling, it's contaminated with other substances. So again, by regulating it, we create safeguards and protections for consumers.
One of the biggest concerns is the effect on teens, a group that both sides agree is already smoking pot.
Perhaps most important for youth is the potential impact of marijuana on the developing adolescent brain, which is not fully developed into the early 20s.
Kilmartin expressing shock at some of the information shared.
You scared me, and I don't scare easy.
But the pro-legalized side says teens are already participating in a black market where they're interacting with drug dealers and criminals to get marijuana, a black market they hope legalization will shrink.
All right, so there are some traditional arguments here and maybe some nuanced arguments that you haven't figured out yet. Jared Moffat is from Regulate Rhode Island and not a stranger to the program. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
And a former senator, John Tassoni, is here, who has been a substance abuse counselor? Advocate? Advocate against substance abuse. And the folks from Smart Approaches to Marijuana at Rhode Island chapter recommended you to represent them today. So welcome.
That's correct.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having me.
Your orientation to this conversation is what?
My orientation is I've worked for Phoenix House for 3 years now, which has a lot to do with substance abuse issues with young adults. And older adults too, especially with the opioid crisis that we got going on over here now. And I just feel as though at this particular point, I don't think it's time to legalize marijuana. I think we should take a step back, see what Colorado and Washington are coming up with issues. We put a bill in to have a study commission to see what Colorado and Washington are doing, how to handle what's going on out there. And I think that's a smart approach to do it.
Right. Jared, tell everybody how you hooked up. You're a paid director of Regulate Rhode Island, your background and why you're representing them.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I've been working on this issue for about 8 years, most of it unpaid. So as a student activist and as someone who just really cares and is passionate about drug policy reform. So that's how I got into this work. It's always been a passion of mine.
The Regulate Rhode Island folks are part of what, a national movement, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. We represent the now about 60% of Americans who see the failed policy of prohibition that exists right now and wants to pursue common sense reform.
Every time we get together, we kind of touch on this, and try to cure the curious mind over there that says this kid's nothing but a dope-smoking pothead who just wants to be able to do this legally. Explain, give that characterization for me.
Yeah, well, I always cut the dreadlocks right before I come in, so you don't see that side. But no, I mean, you know, our position is that what we're doing now is bad for public health and public safety. And with an illicit market sort of out of control, there's no regulations, there's no safety, there's no safeguards. And what we're saying is it makes more sense to bring it above ground. And we're saying that adults, you know, should be able to have the choice to use marijuana if they prefer instead of alcohol.
Explain to the viewers what your motivation is, though, you know, from 8 years ago up until today. I mean, what is it that causes you to want to be so intimately involved in this argument?
Well, I mean, there's so many reasons. Again, I think it's a public policy debate that, you know, that needed some more serious looking at. I think, you know, getting past the sort of giggle phase of haha marijuana and getting to the point where we can have a serious conversation about does prohibiting it and forcing it into an underground market, is that good for public health? Is it good to have law enforcement focus on this?
You have a public health interest in general, not necessarily in this drug issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, public health and safety and what's good for Rhode Island. I mean, I think that it's a public policy debate, and I think there's a lot of interesting facets to it. And this year, I think there's also a really strong argument to make from an economic and fiscal point of view that this is in Rhode Island's best interest with Massachusetts moving forward.
John, do you see this as a policy debate?
It's a policy debate, but I think it's a public health issue also. I don't think that we should be jumping into this with 2 feet just because of money. This is a public policy issue. You see what's going on with the opioid abuse was running rampant. I think we should just take a step back, see what effects it has on Colorado and Washington, and take a lesson from that.
Well, the opioid thing is a horror show, no doubt about it. But you know, all of the programs, we've done a dozen shows on the opioid crisis. It comes from a different direction. I've heard no testimony that marijuana is what has accelerated the opioid crisis in this state.
I don't disagree with you.
That's got to do with in many ways with prescription medicines that people have taken, and it's really crossing all lines socioeconomically here. We've got a prescription med problem that is really accelerated that opioid crisis. So what's the connection?
I don't disagree with you. A lot of the people that I've talked to have been in this business for 3 or 4 years now, have started with marijuana, worked their way into opioid drugs. There's a lot of people who have had surgeries who's got addicted to opioid use. So there's a policy issue. I don't think that we should be jumping in. We should take a step back. I'm not saying I'm against total use of marijuana. I think we should do it the right way. If you look at what's happening with the medical marijuana now, that's an issue in itself. The governor had to put somebody over there to try to get the policies straightened out.
Well, this concept of jumping in is kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think we're jumping in. 8 other states have approved this. We have the models in Colorado and Washington to look at, and we've learned from those models. We have a lot of data showing that youth use has not increased, showing that opioid use has actually been slower to increase in states like Colorado and Washington than the rest of the country. So, you know, I think the fact is if we don't do it this year, then we're going to be sending jobs, we're going to be sending revenue, we're going to be sending investment to Massachusetts because Rhode Island is going to be able to cross the border, go to places like Fall River, Seekonk, and buy marijuana there. So, you know, the question we're asking is why would we want to wait and donate all of this economic activity over to our richer neighbors?
Well, you're not going to wait and donate because Massachusetts just rolled it back 18 months. Our bill looks at, let me finish. Our bill says by March of 2018, let's look and see what Washington and Colorado did, get a bill, and if the legislature feels fit to pass it, then let them pass it next year. We're still going to be under the timeline.
All right, so what we need to do, we'll come back and talk about the battling bills because there's references to legislation and you need to know what each of them says. So stay with us.
The House of Representatives and the General Assembly goes the way the public goes. So you have a divided public on that. Our colleagues are divided on that issue. We have strong opponents, strong opponents, and we'll see where that goes. So neither myself or Leader Shikachi could predict where that's going to go today, and I think we're ultimately going to reflect the will of the citizens.
A recent conversation on Newsmakers with Tim and Ted, of course, that is, of course, the Speaker of the House, Nick Mattiello, And I always kind of chuckle. The senator certainly knows the legislative side, and Jared's been a lobbyist for quite some time now, and he understands how it works up there. The idea that the speaker is tentative on this always makes me smile. He knows where he's going. Let's put it this way: no legislation gets any momentum without the speaker's blessing. He may very well be processing it. What's your take? Do you think he's processing still and open-minded, or what do you think?
I think that's right. I mean, I haven't had an in-depth conversation with him, but I think they are looking at it very seriously, and they want to see what other folks say. But I think he would deserve a lot of credit if we do move forward this year, because it would be a very smart thing, not only for public health and safety, but economically as well.
So, John, you were referring to your bill,
Right.
When we broke there. Your group, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, has formulated legislation.
Correct.
That says specifically what?
Have a study commission to study the effects of Colorado and Washington and report back to the General Assembly in March of 2018.
Are there parameters to the study? Is there a budget for the study?
There isn't a budget at this point, but we're looking. I mean, I've sent out a lot of commissions that really don't need a budget, just to sit down and discuss it and see if they can find out what, in fact, what's going on in Colorado and Washington. If it makes sense to bring some legislation back here to Rhode Island, if in fact they want to legalize it, then they'll legalize it.
Listen, you've been around a long time. You get government. I always get a kick out of the study commission thing.
Mm-hmm.
It usually means table, see you later. I'm not suggesting that it's never worth continuing to review and to collate and to research and to accrue information. But the truth of the matter is that, well, my guess is that the same folks who feel negatively about it will feel negatively about it after a study. The same folks who think they'd like to see it happen will feel that way. I'm not sure what a study does to move the needle one way or the other.
Well, let me give you, for instance, we did a study commission when we did the low and moderate income housing. We did a study commission. We came out with some legislation. I was on a nursing commission. We came out with some legislation that was good for the state. So for someone to say or say that the study commission means see you later, forget it, I totally disagree with that.
Do you choose who you want to have on this study commission, or is it just a concept?
It's listed in the bill.
Are guys like Jared
Absolutely.
is able to to ramble through? You roll your eyes.
Well, there's one place for someone who is in favor, but I mean, generally speaking, I think the bill is pretty stacked with folks who are already against it. The Attorney General, someone from Project SAM. So I don't think that it's really meant to have an all-inclusive discussion based on what I've looked at.
Well, that's up for debate too. I mean, the bill hasn't even had a hearing yet, so if anybody wants to go and testify for it, you want more people on it, I'm all for it.
All right. Your bill calls specifically for what?
To establish a system to regulate cultivators, to regulate retail stores, to regulate testing facilities. It sets up a system similar to what Massachusetts is moving forward with, what Colorado and Washington have already implemented for legal sales for adults 21 and older. So it's about tight regulations, limits on things like advertising, limits on packaging, making sure it's child-proof packaging. So there's a lot of protections in there that are designed to promote public health and promote safety around this issue.
The Attorney General made some assertions in his press conference last week regarding youth, regarding driving incidents and all that kind of stuff. You dispute the data.
Yeah, I think that a lot of what's being shared with the town councils, for instance, from the Attorney General's office is just, you can look at it and provide a lot of evidence
There's
against
an opinion paper the AG has been sending around to the government, correct? I mean, to other to the community.
A resolution.
A resolution.
Mm-hmm. And they've essentially been lobbying the town councils to pass this resolution. So they've been sending their staff out, spending time and resources trying to get the town councils to pass this resolution against the legislation. And if you go point by point, we actually have a rebuttal to each of the points that they make in there. There's just some factually incorrect things. I think in a lot of ways it misrepresents the legislation that Senator Miller and Representative Slater have put forward.
Well, one of the charges that the Attorney General's resolution makes is that you are trying to establish a multi-million-dollar business here in Rhode Island. Do you see it that way?
I see it that the local towns won't have a say on where these particular places go. I see it.
Well, that's
there's
what
a
the
zone-
resolution
I see-
says, but
there's a
Jerry is suggesting that that's
zoning
not the
issue.
case, right?
They would be able to zone it. So town governments would be able to create zoning ordinances to put these establishments in any place they like.
Suppose they don't want to put it in their town.
Then they're able to do a referendum with the local residents to ban them.
And that's a cost. That's a cost to do a referendum. That makes absolutely no sense.
Well, it makes sense in the sense that it's democracy. It's saying if there's the majority of the town doesn't want those establishments, then they can have a vote. It's not a big cost. It's simply adding it to a normal ballot and saying, do you want this or not? Yes or no. It doesn't add any additional cost to the normal
Of course
election.
it's a cost.
What's the
It's a
additional
cost, especially if you don't have it on a regular voting year.
It is the legislation says it has to be in a regular voting year. So this
So,
is not
so,
an
all right,
additional cost.
so we pass the bill, say, this session.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is going to happen in 17. If a community wants to post a referendum, they would have to wait until 18.
Right.
So what prevents Acme Products from putting in a store or petitioning to be able to go into business in that interim period?
The legislation also requires that the regulating body, the Office of Cannabis Coordination, communicate directly with the local town governments. And so I suspect if there was a large movement against that the regulators would say, okay, we'll give you some time, have your ballot in 2018, make your decision, and if you decide not to go forward with it, we won't move forward with
What's
that.
the legal liability if Acme Products just says, hey, listen, this is now an established legality. We shouldn't be having to wait 18 months or 12 months or 9 months for permission to be able to set up shop in a town.
There's nothing that gives these establishments an ability to sue the local governments or anything like that. Again, this is going to be the state level regulators working with the town councils and working with the local governments. We don't want any animosity here. We just want it to be fair. And if the majority of citizens want it, we think it should be allowed.
What if 39 communities all say no?
Well, if that's the case,
what happens?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's highly unlikely, right? I think that most towns are going to see this as what it is. A, something that creates more control, more oversight over an existing market, and number two, creates economic activity. There's going to be additional tax revenue that'll go back to the towns that allow these establishments. That's written into the legislation. So, I don't see that happening. It's theoretically possible, but I think it's unlikely.
All right.
How is all this money going to get put into prevention, back to the towns, if there's no way that they can put special silos for this money?
There is a restricted receipt account created in the legislation.
We don't have them anymore.
This
We don't
legislation.
have restricted receipts accounts anymore.
There is a restricted receipt account for the medical marijuana program right now. So that
And what are they
already
doing with
exists.
that money?
They're using it to fund regulation. So they're implementing all these new licensed cultivators. They're building the infrastructure, and it's becoming a lot safer. They're going to be implementing new testing regulations,
do we have the
pesticides.
accounting on that? Because what John's asserting, and which is generally true, is that no matter whether you have a dedicated revenue stream, it goes into the general fund, and it really
The way to
it's
prevent
budgetary
that-
discretion.
Right.
If your input of flow goes in the general fund for a specific purpose, that budgetary discretion better demand that. There's no automatic, unless I'm missing something.
Well, that's what the restricted receipt account is designed to do. It's to say all the money that
So
comes
that
in from the
restricted receipt account is working right now?
for the medical marijuana program, yes.
By
They're-
law.
They're putting money into that account, and then they're using it to fund the implementation of regulations.
When we come back, I'm interested in John's reaction to this economic argument, because let's not kid ourselves. Our neighbors, many viewers, are going to be in this business, like momentarily. Stay with us. There's a little bit of indication that support is moving statewide for the legalization of marijuana, and that's only natural. I think there's a degree of interested ambivalence out there, and not a lot of fighting against the concept of marijuana. There are advocates, health advocates, social advocates against, meaning opponents. There's organized opposition, but the general thrust, and you've got to recognize this, the general thrust is, whatever, when it comes to legalization of marijuana. You understand that? So
Yes.
there's a political, movement, but acknowledgement that it's almost inevitable.
Yeah.
That's all you got. The 59% number represents the pulse of the people, correct?
Right, absolutely.
Well,
Voters.
whose poll is that?
Right. Public
the-
policy polling.
It's a public policy poll, but John, you're not going to argue that
No.
there's a relative nonchalance, I think, on the part of the general public about this. Massachusetts now is, just a year or so away from being able to make this thing work. They just wanted to postpone some things for logistics. There's going to be revenue. I mean, I'm not talking about Massachusetts like it's way out there. I mean, 40% of our audience is in Massachusetts right now. So Seekonk and Attleboro and Rehoboth and those folks will be setting up shop, and East Providence will have nothing. And Jared's argument is, you know, pay me now or pay me later, or get involved or be chasing the tail. I mean, that is something that's going to have to be reconciled here, and certainly puts pressure on the issue.
I get it, but that's why we're saying study it until March. Come out with some legislation. Massachusetts just rolled it back 18 months to do anything. Just study it, take a look at it.
Well, they didn't roll it back. They rolled it back in
Policy-wise.
terms of well, they rolled
6
it back.
months.
Yeah, 6 months. And by the way, there's no question that there's going to be legal distribution of marijuana and retail opportunities. It's just a question of how-tos right now. This is not an if, it's how.
Yeah.
So
Well, the other piece of it too is, I mean, we're basically, if we don't do anything this year, we're going to be allowing the Massachusetts legislature to write the regulations that are controlling products that Rhode Island is going to be accessing. So the other part of it is, why not have Rhode Island be someone that sets up these regulations themselves?
Rhode Island can't set up any regulations. Look at UHIP, look at DMV, look at all the other ones. Everything is messed up in this state. And you think that Rhode Island is going to take legalization of marijuana and do the right thing and the right policy. You're dreaming, my friend.
Guilty as charged. I
I've been
believe in Rhode
around a
Island.
long
I think
time.
we can do this. We
I've
are
been
doing
around
it
a
with
long time.
We're doing it with medical marijuana, and
You're
I think
not
that
doing it with medical marijuana. Why
We
did
are.
she have to put somebody in charge of medical marijuana? Because it was all messed up. People are overgrown. The stuff is
And-
getting on the black market.
And John, we're fixing it. That's the point.
You're-
I
you're-
believe that
listen,
we can do this.
You are
I don't
not
think
fixing it.
I think it's a defeatist attitude to say, well, we can't do it. It's too hard. I just don't think that's how we move our
I
state
never
forward.
said that. I said, let's look at it, see what's happening in Colorado and Washington, come back with some recommendations that our legislator can look at and make an intelligent decision. I've been there for 12 years. We've done things, I spin my head saying, why did I do that?
Well, I'd like this to get to a point where we can talk about specifics, because, I mean, mostly what I hear from opponents is, we don't know. But then when I ask them, well, what specifically do we not know? I mean, I can provide you data on pretty much anything you want to look at.
Oh,
I
so
mean,
can I brought it.
Yeah, so it's there, right? So we can have a debate about that right now.
You got more marijuana places than you do have Starbucks and McDonald's.
So we
it is pretty fertile ground when it comes to shopping for dope in Colorado, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but again, those are all sales that,
Stoner Hill.
that were taking place in the illicit market before. So, you know, would you rather have it be in regulated stores behind a counter, or would you rather have it happen in the alleyways and in the basements? I mean, I think that it's clear that Colorado voters like what they've done. 61% of them say it's been good for their economy. The governor's coming around, who was initially an opponent. So I think the case has already been made.
All righty, we shall continue, fellas. Thank you. I'm told that we're running out of time. I could do this all night, but we don't have all night. We'll be right back for a final word. The interesting part about this legalization marijuana question is what feels like the inevitability here. Now, look, I'm not promoting it. I don't smoke pot. I've got no interest in this in terms of its, personal interest or urgency. But it just kind of feels like with Massachusetts doing this, Rhode Island is eventually going to come dragging along. The question is, can Rhode Island establish in front of the Commonwealth the kinds of rules and regulations that would make it a more productive decision? Who knows? Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday at 3 on WPRO and back here Monday night.